Hi, my name is K.Thomas, W1DED. Today I have with me Bill Brown, K4NYM. I've heard Bill's story a few times from various people, recently getting back into ham radio and then discovering Parks on the Air. And I'm always intrigued and actually encouraged by these stories about people getting back involved with ham radio and finding this specific niche in Parks on the Air. So I asked Bill to join me today and talk a little bit about that journey. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you for having me today.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate you working through the technical difficulties earlier.
Not a problem.
So, Bill, why don't you jump right into Parks on the Air? How did you first get introduced to Parks on the Air, and what was that first experience like?
Well, I got involved with parks. I got licensed, relicensed. I was originally licensed back in 1992. And then when the pandemic hit, I was looking for a hobby. I was looking to, with everything being locked down, I was looking for a way of getting out and doing something. So I got back into ham radio. I got my license. I got relicensed. I think it was April of 2020. And then a local ham who I met on a repeater introduced me to Parks on the Air. He told me about POTA. And once I looked into POTA, I knew right off the bat that this is probably going to be something I'm going to be interested in. So I bought myself a cheap radio, a ham stick, and a mag mount, and registered on the POTA website to be an activator. Went out to a park, and that was June 7th, 2020, the first day of my first activation, and I was hooked after that. That's how I got involved in POTA.
So it sounds like it might have been a COVID hobby also. Was that part of what drove you out?
Yeah, it really did, because even though I live in Florida, and Florida was more open than most states, in the beginning of COVID, every state was locked down before they started to open up. And I just looking for an outlet. What am I going to go do? What's going to keep me busy and excited? And I didn't really have any other hobbies at that time. And so ham radio resurfaced, and I'm glad it did.
So I hear various reasons why people love POTA, and usually there's a number of them. But one that I often hear about is there's an HOA or an inability to put up antennas in their own backyard. Another is I get to interact with the outdoors. Another is kind of the simplicity of being able to take portable equipment into the field and set up. Which one of those applies to you, or do they all?
Check all of the above. Uh, um, no, I definitely live in an HOA, and the funny thing was I was the vice president of the HOA at that time. And I said, well, great. Now I'm in a position maybe able to lobby for some more relaxing rules regarding antennas, but I couldn't be self-serving and just look out for myself. And yeah, there are restrictions in our particular community with antennas. So, I mean, there's ways of working around that, obviously. There's videos and ham radio operators that have come up with unique ways of putting antennas in HOAs. But in my case, after looking at POTA and realizing how many parks there are in Florida, I said, man, this is a great way of not only activating, which I think is one of the most exciting parts of POTA, but also getting out and seeing some of the parks that Florida has to offer. And Florida's got some amazing parks that I never would have seen or knew about had I not got involved in POTA.
I can so relate to that. I grew up in Maine, left for 15 years, but then came back in 2004. And I thought I understood Maine very well. I had traveled a lot of the state, knew a lot of people. My various jobs took me around the state. Then I got involved with POTA, and I discovered these parks that were just hidden gems that I had never seen, didn't realize existed. And it was such an eye-opening experience. And actually, it's part of the fun for me. I love going to these beautiful locations and being able to do something else that I love, and that's the operating on Parks in the Air. One of the things that really caught my attention, Bill, was your list of well, I'll call them New Year's resolutions. I'm not sure if that's what it was, but you had some Parks on the Air goals for 2022 that was pretty extensive. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I like to set goals. I'm a salesperson by trade. So if you're going to be successful in my trade, you need to set objectives and you need to set goals and have them written down so you can check them off and see how you're doing against those goals. So I finished 2021 strong as far as POTA goes. And I didn't realize that on the website you can actually check your statistics. I didn't really know that until about mid part of 2020. I'm sorry, 2020. So I started looking at the stats, and I'm thinking, boy, there's certain things I would like to do. I'd like to have so many CW activations because CW is my first love. So I'd like to have so many CW activations. I'd like to activate X amount of parks. I then also wanted to get in some technical aspects of the hobby, which are not my strong suit, like being able to build antennas on my own. So I set these goals for myself to see if I could achieve them. And I achieved most of them, not all of them. I achieved most of them for 2022. And so I look at those goals and say, great, I've accomplished these things. And now I have goals for 2023, which are not the same as 2022. And it helps for me take care of a couple things. Number one, I'm a goal-oriented individual, so it kind of scratched that itch a little bit. I'm also competitive in nature. And while POTA is not a contest and POTA is not about being number one in everything, I at least like to be competitive and know that I can find my name somewhere on that list, which is a way of keeping me engaged. And POTA is something different for everybody. Some people just like to get out to POTA every couple of weekends, enjoy it, enjoy the parks. Others really like to activate a lot or hunt a lot. So POTA can be whatever you want it to be. And so, but the goals help keep me coalesced on what I'm trying to achieve.
So, Bill, I feel obliged to share with other people what those goals were, because you've articulated why you set goals and how it drove you, but they may not realize that your goals for 2022 included 1,200 activations, 250 unique parks, 30 total kilos, 25,000 CW QSOs, and I won't go on, but people can get the idea. These are aggressive goals. I mean, I love Parks on the Air, and I have been out quite often. I think 1,200 activations is just such a astronomical number. Why did you peg 1,200, and how did you possibly achieve that?
Well, the main operating goal that I wanted to achieve in 2022 was to operate a park a day. That not many operators have done that, and it's obviously difficult. And what makes it even more difficult in Florida is the weather. You get extreme heat in the summertime with humidity, and you also get lightning storms, especially in my area of Florida. And a sudden lightning storm or thunderstorm can end of activation or a potential activation real quick. So I figured, you know what, if I can set a goal that actually is a challenge and accomplish that challenge, it's going to be very rewarding for me personally. And there were other operators that were looking to try to do a park a day, and I forgot how many may have achieved it. I think a handful of us did. But I felt that was a really worthy goal. So I set that as one of my goals for 2022. As far as the CW activations, I wanted to set the all-time single year record for CW QSOs. And I figured 25,000 would at least be a good threshold to hit, which was not the record, though. The record, I think, was a little bit more. And thankfully, I was able not only to get to 25,000, but also to set that new record. And I'm hoping somebody else could break it because records are made to be broken.
One of the things I've experienced as I've been on my own Parks on the Air journey, my method of setting up and operating and activating has definitely evolved over time. Hopefully, it's gotten better. Have you seen that yourself? Has your equipment changed? Has your methodologies changed? What have you seen?
Oh, yeah, it has. My technical skills have increased. One of the interesting things about being an activator on Parks on the Air is you are on the business end of the pileup, and that could be intimidating and shocking for a first-time activator who has never experienced the pileup, being on the business end of it before. All of a sudden, you got 30, 40 stations trying to reach you, and it can get it can be overwhelming. So being able to work through those pileups, being able to use all the functions on your radio, your RIT control, your attenuator, and all those things is very important for being able to manage your sanity as well as manage the pileup.
Have you seen your equipment change at all?
I've been through, as a faithful and good ham radio operator, I've been through a few radios. I started off with a Zygu G90, which was just 20 watts, and then I wound up getting an Elecraft KX3, and then I wound up getting a Kenwood 480 SAT, an ICOM 706 Mark II-G, and then I'm using now an ICOM 7100, which is my daily driver at the present time.
At the present time. And did you keep all the other equipment?
No one's watching in the room right now. Yes, I have.
Yeah, I've been using the Kenwood TS480 that I bought used at the beginning of the process, and I've loved that radio for sure. It's been great.
It's a
My
fantastic
biggest
radio.
switch has been antennas. I keep experimenting with different antennas and trying to figure out what's going to be effective, but also quick setup, quick takedown, so I can move on or get home again, get back to my real job. So that's how my progression has been. Bill, the other thing that I'm really interested in is your coordination of the Orlando area meetups with other Parks on the Air activators and hunters. Tell us about that.
Well, that just happened out of curiosity. As I got more involved in POTA, I realized, hey, you know what? I'm flying over most of these propagation-wise. I'm flying over most of the other activators and hunters in Central Florida because I'm too close in to really get them unless I get them on a ground plane contact. And there's quite a few of them. And I thought it would be really interesting to meet them and to have some ham radio fellowship, make some friendships, and also support POTA at the same time. So I went on the Facebook group page for Parks on the Air and created an event at Lake Louisa State Park in Claremont, which is not too far from Disney, and thinking, let's see how many people we can get out. Well, we had over 30 people on that first POTA meetup. So then I said, well, let's try another one. And we did it at another local park north of Lakeland, and we had nearly 60 people come out. And then we wrapped it up in April of that year, of the following year, before it got too hot in Florida, and we had another 30 some odd people come out. So that was a rousing success. And then we had our first one for this season. What I mean by season in Florida is the cooler months. We had one in November back at the original park we started at. We had another 30 some odd people come out. And now the 28th of this month, we're going to have another one, and we already have around 30 people signed up at this point. So it's been great. We've been able to meet other hams, encourage each other in POTA. And this particular one, we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to have some knowledge sessions, some breakout sessions where we're going to be teaching portable antennas. We're going to be talking about digital. We're going to be talking about CW operating and see whether or not we can encourage and impart some skills and learn from one another while we get together for our meetups.
One of the things this brings up for me, Bill, I've heard from a number of people their concern about lack of club membership or lack of club participation, and they're trying to figure that out. But you, without even creating a club, seem to have figured that out. Why do people consistently come out to these events? What is driving them to do that, to commit that time?
Wow, we may have to get into some philosophy here. I think the lowest common denominator is friendship. Hams are one of the most friendly groups of people I've ever met. They just are. And they're also social creatures. I mean, you figure we get on microphones and we get on Morse code keys and we get on all these different modes in order to make contact with other people. So we're communicating. Well, at that basic level, communicating is just interpersonal skills, people coming together and talking with one another just in different modes. And if you can combine, face to face, an eyeball QSO, along with some good food, because there's plenty of food at these gatherings, as well as sitting down, having casual chats with people, as well as operating and talking about POTA. I think it's a great mixture, and it scratches people where they itch. It really does. And I think that's the reason why it's been successful.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that we're in this hobby to make contacts, and sometimes those contacts aren't as fulfilling if you don't actually get in the same room with somebody and have a further conversation. And I know in my own case, it would be a lot of fun to get together with other activators here in the state of Maine, just to compare notes even, how to get to parks, how to best activate. A lot of the parks in the Maine either haven't been activated very often or they haven't been activated at all. So there's always a little bit of mystery involved in how do I do this? I mean, obviously, if it's a state park, it's pretty straightforward, but we have a lot of wildlife management areas that create a little bit of a struggle. So kudos to you for creating that opportunity for people to get together and have fellowship. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was your volunteering for Parks on the Air nationally. I think this is something new that you've done, getting involved with some of their event consideration for the future. What's that been like for you?
Well, I don't have an official position in POTA. I don't. There's the administration in POTA. I'm just an activator that wants to promote Parks on the Air. And I found a way of doing that through these meetups, which is one way of doing it. Another way is attending really the two big ham radio shows in the United States, which is Hamcation, which is down the road with me in Orlando, and also Hamvention up in Xenia, Ohio. POTA was blessed to have a booth where we were able to put up some banners and to meet with people. They would come by and chat about POTA, which has really been good. Participating in the Facebook group page and the Slack channel has also allowed me to help promote POTA. And I'm just one person doing that. There's plenty of other hams in POTA that are unofficial ambassadors for the organization, which I think is a great thing. And I think POTA gives so much that I'd like to find a way to give back. And helping promote it in the way that I can is that way.
Well, this is another fascinating part of Parks on the Air for me. I think there are very few official volunteers. If you look at their website, there are some, but they're very few. But there are a number of unofficial volunteers like yourself. And that's also very encouraging to me when I look at ham radio. And I think the current QSD issue, or maybe the initiative this year for the ARRL, is how do we get more volunteers involved? And then I look at Parks on the Air, and there does seem to be a number of official and unofficial volunteers. So first of all, thank you. I appreciate you doing that, because I think that makes that particular niche in the hobby so much more fun for people like me when people like yourself are putting that effort in. Can you speak at all to any of the things that might be on the horizon for Parks on the Air, or you'd like to see on the horizon for Parks on the Air in 2023?
Well, just on your last contact, let me state that I think that any volunteer organization, anything that goes exciting among people has to be organic. It can't be contrived. So this is not, so when you have unofficial ambassadors, people that get involved, it's really a grassroots effort. If Jason Johnson, W3AAX, the president of POTA, and all the other people on the admin team had to go fight to find people in order to do things in POTA, it wouldn't be anywhere near as successful as POTA has become. So a lot of the people that get excited about POTA are doing it because they really like it and it's organic. As far as what the future holds for POTA, POTA is really looking at a number of exciting things in 2023, and I don't want to spill the beans. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to do so, but I know they want to make some really good changes to the Summer Support Your Parks event, which is really the only official type of competition that we have in POTA, where we give out plaques and awards for hitting certain levels of achievement in different categories. So they're working on that to make that better, to kind of streamline it a bit and make it better. And that's the main thing going into 2023. I do know that the admin team is wrestling with all the international growth of POTA. POTA has really taken off in Asia, in Europe, it's in South America. It's really become a global program, and growth provides great opportunity, but it also presents problems if it's not handled correctly. We see that in business all the time. So I think the admin team in POTA is doing a great job managing how we're going to incorporate international growth in the program. So I would be looking more towards that as well in 2023.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing where it all goes in 2023. I really appreciate, again, your efforts to be an ambassador for Parks on the Air. And also thank you for joining me today, Bill.
It's been a pleasure, Kevin. Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you also. You can find Bill Brown on the spotting page at POTA for sure. Look for him, make a contact. Thank you again, Bill. Have a good day.
You're very welcome.